New coach, healthy quarterback, new toys, old faces, new faces, storylines aplenty as a new burgundy and gold season is among us. Welcome into another season of Gametime Live presented by Verizon. I am your host, Lou Holder. Only here can you get the exclusive videos and the pregame analysis before every Washington Redskins football game. And speaking of pregame analysis, who better to give you pregame analysis than the voice of the Washington Redskins, Larry Michael, back for another season of Gametime Live presented by Verizon. Hello, Larry.
Hello, Lou. It's great to have you back on the sideline for these pregame shows. And preseason, while a lot of people think there's really no meaning to these games, in the win and loss column, everybody wants to win. The Redskins won all four last year, but you know what happened after that? Talent evaluation and staying healthy is the name of the game tonight.
Right. I thought about how I was going to start with you. There's so many things, so I'm just going to break it down with new coach, healthy quarterback, and then all the rest of the stuff. So let's start with the new coach, Jay Gruden, sixth head coach in the last 13 years for the Washington Redskins. We've seen Joe Gibbs. We've seen the Steve Spurrier. We've seen Jim Zorn. We've seen Mike Shanahan. What is the buzz that you're seeing about Jay Gruden?
Well, Jay Gruden has a lot to prove in the National Football League. He always wanted to be a football player. He wanted to start as a quarterback in the NFL and never really got a chance to do so. So, number one, he wants to prove that he can do what his brother did, win a Super Bowl as a head coach. And I think he's a breath of fresh air. A lot of people have mentioned that, have said that about him. He's a very loose guy. During practice, he's very, very vocal. He's very hands-on. There's Chris Baker right there. He's very hands-on. And one of the things you see with Jay Gruden is there's a lot of instruction going on. There's a lot of teaching going on. And that doesn't say anything about the previous regime. That's what he wants to do. That's what he thinks he has to do. And so I think this will be a disciplined team, a lot of firepower and offense. There are some question marks, as we know. I don't know if we'll get those answers tonight, but we might get some other answers tonight about the rest of the team.
Gametime Live presented by Verizon. The Washington Redskins take on the New England Patriots in the preseason. What we do here on Gametime Live that no other show does is we give you video of the players as they're warming up. So as Larry and I stand back, let's talk about the players and specifically that quarterback, Robert Griffin III. Last year when we were here talking about different storylines, we were looking for that big brace on his knee and whatnot. Will he be all in for week one? He is healthy and ready to go this year. Robert Griffin III, a healthy quarterback. Talk about it.
Well, you know, I don't see him out there, actually. I think he's done his warm-ups. We do have Kirk Cousins here. And if you come to the left a little bit, you have Pierre Garçon over here, along with Deshaun Jackson. And those are two guys who won't be playing tonight. Obviously, Deshaun got cleated, got his foot stepped on yesterday, and Pierre's got a little bit of a tender hamstring. If this was week one, they'd be out there. But Robert Griffin III, last year was not healthy. This year he is. Last year he didn't participate in the offseason program. This year he has. So what that manifests itself on the field, we're going to have to wait and see. He's got more weapons, no doubt about it. The running game should be very strong. Redskins ran the ball last year before Alfred Morris. We know what he can do. But adding to Deshaun Jackson, adding to Andre Roberts, the maturity of a Jordan Reed, and a healthy Robert Griffin III, to me, spells all you need to read in terms of the offense. I think the offense will be dynamic. There are questions on the backup offensive linemen, and this team has a lot of wide receivers. They're not going to carry all these wide receivers. So you're going to have to do some business before the regular season starts. Outlook, offense, outstanding this year.
Defense, we bring in Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark was back here when Sean Taylor was here and LeVar Arrington and Sean Springs, that whole defense. He said that this group of defensive guys that he has is probably some of the he's played with. Talk about the defense and especially that secondary and how important it is for that secondary to come correct this year.
Well, you know, you've got two guys who, if you look at the stat sheets, as I prepared for this game, Lou, I look at the stat sheets from last year, and Josh Wilson and Reed Dowdy's names were on those stat sheets. They're no longer with the team. They haven't been replaced by Ryan Clark and David Amerson in the starting lineup, respectively. How those guys improve those two spots, I think Emerson's second-year play out of NC State. I think he's got a lot of ability. He's learned how to play. I think he's going to have a good year. Ryan Clark, a veteran. It's kind of weird just looking out here, not seeing London Fletcher with his headphones on. Right. I kind of look out here because he was one of those guys out here all the time, early, getting his reps in. But Ryan Clark, again, another guy, 35 years old, veteran in the league. We know what he used to do. He's a better football player now, according to him. He says, if I look at tape of myself when I was with the Redskins in 04 and 05, I'm a much better player now than I was then, albeit an older player. So you don't know how that's going to come out. I think Ryan is going to be outstanding for the football team in terms of leadership, direction, coaching on the field. And then you got Keenan Robinson, inside linebacker, replacing the aforementioned London Fletcher. A lot on his shoulders, Lou. Never really played in the National Football League. He's had a couple of games he has played and hadn't had a lot of experience because he's been injured. If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's the guy that's calling the defensive signals. He's never done that either. So a lot of pressure on Keenan Robinson. We'll see how he does tonight.
As we look at Deshaun Jackson again, one thing that we saw him do with the Philadelphia Eagles is return kicks and return punts. We know we probably won't do that here, but I want to segue into special teams last year that wasn't really that special. You got some guys now that have come into this to the season that can return kicks, can return punts, and it'd be nice for the Washington Redskins to start drives from their 30 instead of from their 10 and from their 15.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story of last year. Let's be honest. That was a story last year, field position, and so you can evaluate the defense as you want, but when the field position was that bad time after time, that defense definitely, by the end of the day, did succumb. So, in terms of, you look at the special teams, there's a big battle at kicker right now. Zach Hocker, the rookie, Kai Forbath, the veteran. This is the start of a competition that will finally yield at the end of the day your starting kicker.
Okay. Last question for you before you leave. Who has to step up in this preseason? I mean, there's a bunch of spots that are open. What'd you say, about maybe 15, 20 spots? Who needs to step up and make this team?
I think, you know what, if you're really paying attention to this game, the second half is what's going to matter, the third and fourth teamers. And that's where you're going to find that movement. You got a lot of veterans, you got a lot of rookies, and you have a team coming off a bad year. So you're going to see some good players cut this year. That'll improve the football team. Specifically, backup defensive line, backup corner, backup wide receiver, and offensive line. There's some jobs up for grabs tonight.
All right, Larry Michael, the voice of the Washington Redskins, always a gem to have on Gametime Live, presented by Verizon. Larry is in his place, and also in his place for another year is the guy we like to call Big Sexy. His name is Chris Russell from ESPN 980. He's big, he's sexy, he has all the insight for the Washington Redskins from a insider point of view. First of all, how has it been down in Richmond? I mean, a lot of people watching this can't get down to Richmond. You're doing stuff every day from down there. How has it been second year in Richmond as he's checking his phone for the non-actives, the everything? That's what Chris Russell does. But pay attention to me, brother, and tell me. I understand. You're a multi-talented guy. You multitask like no one else in the business. How's it been down in Richmond?
Richmond's been great. I mean, the weather's been fantastic. Look, anybody that says, oh, it's been too hot and this, look at the weather we have here, Lou. We're back home. It's like 82 degrees, nice little gentle breeze. I mean, it's been warm a couple of days. It's been rainy and buggy, and my arms can attest to that. But you know what? The football's been good. I think the competition on both sides of the ball, really on all three phases of the ball, you mentioned special teams with Larry, has been intense. I think it was more physical the first week. Certainly they backed off second week, but I think the second week was made up for by what they got, a healthy dose of the New England Patriots.
All right. One thing that we can't see on this video is the mentality of the players. I mean, the body language of this team last year in the last couple games was just so defeated. How's the body language now with a new coach, Deshaun Jackson, a new toy on offense, bringing back Ryan Clark, at least somebody on defense that is basically competent that can be back there? How is just the overall vibe? I mean, every team, when they're going into a preseason, hope, springs eternal. But this team has got to feel like a big weight has been lifted from last year.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think when they talk when you hear the term culture change, a lot of times, that's overdone. I think in this particular case, that can't be stated enough, how much the culture has changed. And this is no disrespect to Mike Shanahan, who obviously has done a tremendous amount of good in his NFL career. But the bottom line is the train fell off the tracks last year with more than just the quarterback. And let's put it this way, people don't want to talk about that. It was much, much, much more than just the quarterback-head coach relationship that led to a 3-13 team and a coaching change. You bring in Jay Gruden, who's not afraid to criticize, who's not afraid to constructively criticize and be honest in the media with what his players are doing well and what his players are not doing well. But I think the way he says it, the way he does it, it's kind of in a aw shucks kind of, humorous, slightly kind of, hey, I'm just a big old football, kind of an almost younger John Madden-esque way, if that makes sense, where he can get away with some of that and his players buy in and they believe and they like playing for him. And I'm telling you, all the criticism Jim Haslett gets, they like playing for that guy. people are wrong when they think that Jim Haslett doesn't know what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and they love Ben Kadwika.
So let's step out of the way, as we usually do, and get some time. I mean, we've been seeing Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon, neither of them who will be playing today. But I want to talk to you about just some of the guys, you know, Pierre Garçon and Deshaun Jackson are going to make this football team.
You think?
Yeah. But some of the guys who won't, I asked Larry, give me, you know, maybe like 15 spots that are up for grabs you could think on this team. Give me a couple of the guys who you say that, hey, look, have really, really got to step up. Larry, you know, mentioned it a little bit, but go in depth on who are some of these people that have to have a good preseason to make this football team.
Well, I think you start with Bakari Rambo. And right now, he's almost on by default. And he has had his moments where he's been okay so far in camp. But then he's had his moments where he struggled miserably in the red zone on Tuesday against the Patriots when he was playing, you know, pretty much with the first team, you know, for a lot of periods because Ryan Clark went out. So you start with Bakari Rambo, but then you say the cornerback position. You know, if they only take 5 corners and go 5 corners and 5 safeties, well, that means Chase Minifield, E.J. Biggers, and maybe even Tracy Porter are fighting for basically one spot because Bashaud Breeland's on this team. David Amerson has had a great camp. D'Angelo Hall's had a great camp. And E.J. Biggers knows the defense, whereas Tracy Porter is so far behind, and he's not even going to play tonight. So that might be a guy that, you know, we all thought was a lock. Maybe not a lock right now. Then you look at the defensive line position. I mean, who's fighting for spots? Chris Neal, Clifton Gathers. You look at the offensive line, Adam Geddes on the outside looking in right now because the Redskins are likely going to have to take 10 offensive linemen, and I don't think Adam Geddes or Maurice Hurd is in that 10, at least not in mine, and anybody that I've talked to in their top 10. And then just real quickly, Aldrick Robinson, Nick Williams, and, of course, the young kid Cody Hoffman, who I don't expect to make the team, but really Aldrick Robinson and Nick Williams battling for that 6th wide receiver spot.
Looking at the 40-yard line, you see Nick Sundberg return the snapper. I mean, we can't stress enough how important it was in this special teams that was not so special last year that Nick Sundberg was not in there. I mean, how important is he for the special unit?
Well, I mean, Nick is, you know, a huge part of the specialty. And you're right, you know, in all the woe and misery of last year, you know, we forget that Nick missed a large part of the year. Not only that, but you have 2 new punters. I'll be really interested to see how Robert Malone and Blake Klinging do tonight. You know, Malone's probably got the better and slightly more consistent leg. You know, both have flashed at times. Both have been inconsistent at times. You talk to Ben Kadwika, that's what he wants to see. Who gets consistently good hang time and length? And then really the place-kicking battle. I mean, you know, look, many people feel that Kai Forbath is the sure thing at place kicker because of what he does and what he gives you in field goals. And listen, points probably more important than kicking touchbacks. But I don't think anybody should disqualify Zach Hocker from the mix. I think that's a legitimate competition. I think it will be decided in games. And I think if for whatever reason Kai struggles in the field goal area, that opens up the door big time.
Before I let you go, I know that you were very adamant about, you know, having Deshaun Jackson here or not here because of what he can provide to the mix. You know, if you see him now and you know that he, you know, is got clipped a little bit, your thoughts on having Deshaun Jackson here?
Well, listen, what he can provide when he's healthy and when he plays, which will be a big storyline to kind of go forward. You know, small guy, he's going to get nicked up, he's going to get bumped up. You know, we always talked about Brandon Banks, small in stature, you know, not being able to handle the pounding at this level. I mean, so far we've seen Deshaun Jackson with a hamstring pull in organized team activities, missed a week. We saw him miss Fan Appreciation Day, a fully padded practice. Then Wednesday, yesterday, he comes out and gets his ankle a little bit twisted. So, I mean, who knows what he's going to be health-wise. The bottom line is when you have a small guy like that, you have to have the wheels, you have to have the speed, and you have to have the health. If Deshaun Jackson has that, then he's a dynamic weapon that the Redskins can deploy in a number of ways. You'll see 3 wide receivers on one side. You'll see stacks, triple sprays. You'll see all sorts of things. When he's healthy, they can be a dynamic offense. If he's less than 100%, which right now he is, then they're just kind of an average offense.
Chris Russell, thank you so much.
Thanks, Luke.
Chris Russell from ESPN 980, always bringing it to us. is Big Sexy. All right, the cavalcade of people coming in and out continues now. With us, the Redskins blogger Andrew Walker. And Andrew, you know what your job is. The people that are watching this on Redskins.com always want to know what's going on at the stadium because obviously they can't be here. So everybody gets a program, the game program, and who is on the front of this game program for the first preseason game of the season? Show it up to the camera for us, please.
We've got D'Angelo Hall here, obviously a defensive captain every year, and a guy that's so important to this defense. He had such a good year last year and should have been a Pro Bowler in many eyes, but he's so important to this defense. And the main point of this story, the cover story here, is how in the offseason he could have really had offers from a lot of teams, but upon his first conversation with Jay Gruden, he really liked what he heard, so he decided to re-sign. He really wants a championship. He wants another shot at a championship, so he re-signed here, and he likes what he sees.
He said, obviously, that put his game film up against anybody, and he's one of the best. That was one of the storylines of the preseason. He's confident. Every corner thinks that they're the best. Even with, the Richard Shermans and the Patrick Petersons out there, D'Angelo thinks he's the best, and you got to have that on defense.
Well, if you listen carefully, what he said, it was very mature in what he said. He said, I don't think I'm the best. I think I'm among the best, and like you said, he said, put my numbers up against anybody. There's a lot of sites out there that specialize in coverage against the best receivers. He was the best or among the best, and he's an asset to the Redskins defense.
What are some of the storylines you're going to be looking for this game? Obviously, there are a lot of people who are going to try to make this team. We talked with Larry, we talked with Chris about some of the openings on this team. Some of these stories are amazing. Guys, trying to make this team, and I'm sure you'll be following some of that.
Yeah, well, I think the one that I'm looking at is what does Keenan Robinson do with his 8, 10, 12 snaps? He's a guy that's taken London Fletcher's spot there in the middle of the defense at linebacker. What's he going to do? How's he going to take advantage? How does he look against Ryan Mallett, who's apparently starting, and Tom Brady's not playing? So, what's he going to do with his snaps? How are special teams going to look better? I really look at Adam Hayward as that Lorenzo Alexander-esque type guy that can lead, with Niles Claw, lead the special teams and make that coverage better. Those are kind of the two main things I'm looking at, as well as Robert Griffin is back in action after, not playing those last 3 games. How's he going to look in his 8 to 10, 12 snaps?
Let's step out of the way. Let's get some flavor of the stadium, everything going on here as the Washington Redskins get ready to take on the New England Patriots in the first of 2 home preseason games. The Cleveland Browns coming here for the other one. Johnny Football and Mike Pettin Jr., the head coach there, are going to be in here as well. Washington Redskins also on the road, playing the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You ready for that media circus with Johnny Football?
We've seen it all. We've seen it all. So, again, as the season goes on, what were some of the people that are going to be on the front of this magazine?
Well, it pretty much coincides with what we did this year is kind of the theme of who's on the game ticket that year. Just makes it a lot easier. It's kind of a theme. So
there you go, people. Breaking news or not so breaking news. The same person that is going to be on the ticket is probably the same person that's going to be on the game program. And as Ryan Kerrigan comes through here, this defense, Chris Russell said that these guys love playing for Jim Haslett. Is that maybe one of the storylines that you're going to have as far as Jim Haslett and maybe some of these coaches?
Oh, without a doubt. And Coach Gruden told us a couple days ago that Coach Haslett's going to actually be on the field this year. He won't be up in a booth like he was last year. So he feels that will be a big difference for him. But you're absolutely right. These players love playing for Coach Haslett. He knows what he's talking about. It's just executing. That's all it comes down to. And they've got a little bit more veteran presence now to do that.
Andrew Walker, thank you so much. Hey, people, from Gametime Live presented by Verizon. I like having friends with me on this show. And I brought another friend with me, new to the Gametime Live experience. It's Rich Tandler from Comcast Sportsnet. I've worked closely with Rich. He also is an insider for the Washington Redskins. And give us your take. We were funny. We were talking about Chris Russell and, Chris Russell's analysis. And jokingly, Rich said, we don't agree with anything that Chris Russell says, trying to be adversarial. But, all joking aside, we love all of our media brethren, and I'm sure that you have some different takes, probably from Chris, probably from Larry, probably even from Andrew, of what you've seen down in training camp.
Yeah, I think it's been it's been interesting. I'll put it that way. Starting with everybody's number one topic, the quarterback, Robert.
Hold on, let's step out of the way here because these guys are having a competition with the fans. It looks like Pierre Garçon, Ryan Clark, and Deshaun Jackson are throwing balls as far as they can into the crowd. You didn't see that last year with Mike Shanahan. You didn't see the looseness that you see right now. Look at this. He's throwing it all the way up. And
back of the lower deck.
These guys are having fun. This experience is already totally different than the cloudy skies over the last Mike Shanahan era. I mean, the last year of the Shanahan era, because the beginning of it started okay, but it was that last year, the snowball fights at Kansas City game, just the way these people just wanted the season to end. These guys look like they want this season to begin.
Yeah, they're real anxious for it to begin. I tell you what, in the detail, attention to detail in training camp.
Here he goes. Here's Deshaun. Deshaun, is he going to try to? Okay. Yeah.
Giving them a wave. But, really, I was just looking at tight end coach Wes Phillips out there talking with Logan Paulson. He's really going through a lot of details with these guys, really on a lot of the finer points. Outside linebacker coach Brian Baker. Guys like that are kind of bringing a breath of fresh air to the whole operation.
And I think one of the things that when you look at just the overall thing of Jay Gruden, he's a young guy. I think they said he's the youngest coach since Joe Gibbs was here as the coach his first time around.
Yeah.
So that young nature, having a young coach, how important is that to relate to these new age players? Because Mike Shanahan obviously was more seasoned. Jay Gruden, this is his first go round.
I think a lot of it really, though, the age is important, but it's frame of mind. Pete Carroll relates to his younger players.
You got that.
NFL. It's not age, it's your state of mind, it's how you think. We could see Jay Gruden 10, 12, 15 years from now, if he's successful, being the same way. You do what works for you.
Washington Redskins taking on the New England Patriots. They practiced with him for 3 days down there. You saw the best at his position, one of the best at his position, and Tom Brady do his thing. Robert Griffin III, if you were to pour true serum into him, he was looking over there trying to get any tip he can. Obviously, I heard that Tom Brady not play. I mean, it's not official yet, but he might not play. But I'm wondering how much this joint practice thing is going to catch on as far as doing it with other teams as the years go on.
Yeah, I think, we asked Jay Gruden about that yesterday after the practice. He said he liked the idea a lot. He did say that he would prefer to have it in Richmond if they're going to do it. He'd rather not take it on the road. And I figure that is because they are obligated to have a certain number of practices in Richmond, with their contract with the city. So, but he likes the experience. He did it last year. Was the first time he'd done it with the Bengals. I believe they visited Atlanta. So, he does that, but he liked the experience, not only for what the players got out of it, said the coaches got a lot out of it too, going through their situations, seeing what are you going to do on 3rd and 1, what are you going to do in goal line situations, things like that. So they got set up in a lot of situations, and Jay was pretty happy with it.
Rich Tandler, thank you so much. Look forward to having you during the season.
Okay.
All right, Rich Tandler from Comcast Sportsnet. Rich Tandler weighed in. Chris Russell from ESPN 980 weighed in. Andrew Walker, our Redskins blogger, weighed in. And Larry Michael, the voice of the Washington Redskins, all weighed in. And the season's here, people. Congratulations, Washington Redskins football fans. You have made it through another offseason. Football. We are finally going to see some football. A lot of guys trying to make this team. A lot of storylines, as I mentioned. We got a new coach in Jay Gruden. We got a healthy Robert Griffin III with not that knee brace on him. We got Deshaun Jackson, who will play at some point. Pierre Garçon. We got weapons upon weapons. And it's going to be an exciting year for the Washington Redskins, to say the least, and we'll have it all here for you on Gametime Live, presented by Verizon. Get ready for some football, people. The Washington Redskins and the New England Patriots. Thanks for tuning in.